His son John Leslie poses a question. He said, when you have goals and dreams you want to achieve, he said, ask yourself the question, who should I count on and who should I count out? And so many people never achieve their goals because they have too many toxic, negative, energy draining people in their lives. And you have to have goals outside of your comfort zone that will challenge you, because in order to do something you've never done, you've got to become someone you've never been. And you've got to have a mentor who's experienced, who's been there, done that. And as a result of that relationship, because you can't see the picture when you're in the frame, Muhammad Ali said, I'm the greatest, but he never won a championship without Angelo Dundee. And Michael Jordan never won a championship without Phil Jackson. So you've got to have someone that can see something in you that you can't see, that can take you to a place within yourself that you can't go by yourself. So I would teach them the value of having a life coach, that life is an adventure and it's going to be a challenge, and get ready because you're going to fail your way to success. You're going to get slapped around by life. And don't spend time complaining about it and telling everybody 80% don't care and 20% glad it's you. Dr. Alfred Golson, who has since passed, was a very unusual guy. And he told me, he said, Mr. Brown, you have cancer. I said, can you give me a second opinion? He said, yes, and you're ugly too. I said, oh my God. So I didn't have a chance to have fear, because those three words, you have cancer, three of the most feared words in 7 different languages. I saw it as a fight. And from that time to this time, my PSA was 2,400, and that's after prostate-specific antigen, and now it's below 0 and metastasized to 7 areas of my body, which was a good thing because 7 is my lucky number. Okay, so I never was fearful that I was going to die from it, and I think I read something by Dr. Norman Cousins. He wrote a book called The Biology of Hope. And he talked about the fact that when something happens to you, you don't deny it, you defy it. And I was defiant that I'm going to beat this, I'm going to handle this. That there are people who many times when something happens to them, that they embrace it from a place of fear, and it takes them out. And Elsie Robinson said, things may happen to you and things may happen around you, but the most important things are the things that happen in you. And you have to stand up inside yourself and deal with it and handle it. So fortunately, that never bothered me, but I had sciatica pain. That had me speaking in unknown tongues. And I was in a wheelchair for several months, speaking from a wheelchair. And it was something that I dealt with that frightened me. Will this ever end? It was 24 hours. I lost a lot of sleep. It was exhausting, going from all types of specialists in and out of the country. And just one day, it stopped. And I'm glad that I'm past that, I feel like when you go through some stuff, some certain things that you don't want ever to see again, and that's what I don't want to ever see again. But fear has not been the biggest challenge that I've faced with the things that I've been dealing with in terms of my health.
Well, talk to me about the process that you go through mentally. So there have been a few times in your life, in getting to know your story, where they seem like really key inflection points. Being told that you were teachable but mentally retarded, that for sure is something that would define most people, and they would have a hard time escaping that. Being told that you have cancer, that it's stage 4, that they don't know how to treat it, like that's something that consumes most people. How do you build that resilience? So maybe by the time you get to cancer, you've already done so much work, so I get maybe how that when you're protected by the mechanisms you've built, but in the beginning, how did you crawl out from under the labels that people were putting on you?
The easiest thing I've done was to get out from under the labels and to live the life that I live. The most difficult thing I've ever done was to believe that I can do it.
What's the difference?
The difference is that when you don't know what's impacting you, and it's something that's holding you down and you're not aware of it. The great anthropologist Margaret Mead was in a restaurant in London, and a guy was serving her and said, "There are several Americans here tonight." And she said, "Is that right?" "Yeah." So let me know when you serve them dessert. I'll tell you exactly how many are here. He said, "Oh, you couldn't possibly." And so he came back and said, "Okay, I've done it." And she got up, she walked around, and she came back and she said, "There are around 25 here." And he looked at the roster. "How did you know that?" "Say, in America, we eat differently from you when we eat a dessert. You eat it from the crust toward the tip. We eat it from the tip toward the crust. When you eat a slice of pie, how do you eat yours?"
Definitely, yeah, from the tip back to the crust, for sure.
Yeah, okay, and so there are things that when you, in my situation, when you live in a dominant culture that is designed to destroy your sense of self and your belief in yourself, and you have to learn ways in which you can begin to connect with this power that you have within yourself to handle where you are. The key is to be constantly in a perpetual process of discovering the truth of who you are and fighting constantly to look for ways in which you can escape the inner conversation. I speak to audiences around the world, and I train speakers as well, and I tell them that when you speak, that there's an objective that you want to achieve when you speak to an audience, because how people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. So you as a speaker, when you speak in this program, when people see you, what you do is distract, dispute, and inspire. You distract people from their current story with your guests and the questions that you asked. Through the process of the ongoing questioning and the way in which they respond and the things they have learned, you dismantle their current belief system and inspire them to create a new chapter with their lives. And so, but that's an ongoing process of constantly interrupting that conversation, what psychologists call your self-explanatory style, because life is going to beat up on you in so many ways, and many things, they come back, negative thoughts and how you feel about yourself, they don't die. They come back once you stop doing the maintenance work on your mind, listening to motivational messages, going to seminars and workshops, spending time quietly listening to the still small voice within. Who am I really? Is this really me? Am I giving my best? Am I just reflecting what's around me? Because all of these various things affect how we show up in life. And so having a strategy to continuously find ourselves reaching higher. Robert Schuller had a book, it's not very popular, but I loved it. It's called Peak to Peak, P-E-A-K to P-E-E-K, because you're constantly reaching higher to find out, discover your better self. This is a time where you have to be hungry because according to the Department of Labor, over 20,000 people lose their jobs every month and being replaced by artificial intelligence. And so I used to sell television sets. A guy named Sam Axelrod knocked on the door. "Hello. Hi, would you like to buy a good working television set?" Nobody down. And they said, "No, you're going from door to door." And he would call the guys together when it gets so late and say, "Okay, we gotta go." And he would call everybody to the car. And he said, "Wait a minute," he come to hear, "Hey, Leslie's not here." And I can hear him saying, "Hey, Leslie, come on to the car." And I said, "No, Sam." "Why not?" I said, I'm not going to stop until I sell a television set. I haven't sold yet. No, nobody's sold anything yet. I don't care, Sam. I've got to do this. I made a commitment. I'm going to make enough money to put groceries on our table. And I would knock sometimes 10:30 at night. And, hey, would you like to buy a nice working television set? No money down? Do you know what time it is? Yes, I do. I'm going to buy groceries for our family. Somebody's going to buy a nice working television set from me tonight, and it might as well be you. And they say, come on in here, fool, it better be a good one. So I learned how to be unstoppable. When he came to pick the other guys up, we had to wait till they got dressed, but I would be standing out front looking for him, waiting, because I was hungry. They were getting money just to have a good time, to party on the weekend. I was earning money so that we could eat.
And I came to speak to somebody today who has some triumph in your life, but you've also got some trouble. You've got some joy in your life, but you've also got some sadness.
Until you have had the taste of finishing, you will not respect yourself. Until you follow through, until something is done, come hell or high water, tears and struggles and pain, and you go through it anyway, and you show up and you continue to fight on no matter the circumstances.
Courage is the key. Courage is the key. Confidence. It is never the promise of God that is in question. It is our confidence in that promise.
So why not reach down inside of you and come up with some more of those remarkable human gifts? They're there waiting to be discovered and employed. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. If you don't like how it is for you, change it. If it isn't enough, change it. If it doesn't suit you, change it. And I challenge you to do all that because you can change. See, you don't ever have to be the same after today, only by choice. Now for the process of change, just a philosophical pronouncement won't do. It takes more than that, and it takes more than enthusiasm. You can get all excited about lifting 200 pounds until you get to the gym. Then you need a new excitement, and the new excitement is discipline. Discipline, the major step to human progress. If there is one thing to get excited about, this is it. Get excited about your ability to make yourself do the necessary things to get a desired result. That's true excitement.
So remember, if you find yourself doing something that doesn't seem to be supporting you in the long term, remember at some level your brain thinks it's supporting you, at least in the short term. Don't feel bad about it. Don't go, oh gosh, here I am, this failure. Some of the most successful people that I've interviewed and worked with have had self-sabotage. It's just a pattern we once in a while get, and you can just change it now. It's very easy. You can free yourself from self-sabotage right now by knowing from this day forward that if you ever start to sabotage yourself, one, try another approach. Maybe it's you're just not paying attention. Maybe you're not focusing. Maybe you just got some poor habits. If they're just bad habits, refocus and decide what you do want to accomplish.
Really making personal changes calls for 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. Wishing we could change is a beginning, but now wish must be translated into activity, and inspiration and affirmation must lead to discipline. We can affirm that we are going to change, but we must now form new habits and develop new disciplines for the affirmation to come true. We can look at developing ourselves spiritually, physically, and mentally. With respect to our spiritual development, this may be a major or a minor issue for you depending on your values and your goals. Come to your own decisions as to what it will take to nourish your spiritual nature. Next, let's look at physical development. The body and the mind work together and depend on each other, so they both need attention. Treat your body like a temple. So just put it in your notes. Body like temple. Not a bad suggestion. Now, in taking care of the physical, we must learn to be conscious of ourselves, but not self-conscious. We need to be aware of our physical appearance, our physical well-being, but not to the point of being self-conscious. But some people devote too much of their day to physical appearance. Physical appearance is going to have something to do with your future, your well-being, so do spend some time on physical appearance. How we appear to other people does make a difference in terms of our acceptance and our ability to function and do well in the marketplace.
If you do have a pattern, realize that any pattern you have, including self-sabotage, still comes back to one thing. Human beings, no matter what we're doing, including sabotaging ourselves, we do it for a positive intent. If it clearly is a pattern where you are subconsciously sabotaging yourself, screwing things up, hey, get excited. Don't get upset. Say, hey, look, my brain is doing what it does best.
Personal development, how important. Remember, the major key to your better future is you. That's a sentence with a lot of value. The major key to your better future is you. For a share of my life, I didn't understand the importance of that phrase. I used to wonder why two people could work for the same company and one make twice as much money. Wouldn't that be a puzzle? I know there are many ways to do well, but in this narrow area called compensation, what is the difference? I thought time makes some of the difference. Some people do better because they have more time. Now, that's got to be dumb, right? You can't get someone else's time. There isn't any more time. Where would you find any? Hey, when the clock strikes 12 midnight, that's about it. It's over. There isn't any more time. If you insist on finding more than 24 hours a day, they will come and take you away.
Identify a behavior that's keeping you from getting your goals, something that's stopping you or holding you back. Once you've identified it, ask yourself, what is the positive intent here? What is my brain trying to give me? Get some leverage on yourself so that you can make the change. Teach your brain that, hey, if I don't change this thing, you got to have a little conversation in your head.
You see, what you become is far more important than what you get. However, it is also true that what you become directly influences what you get. Most of what we have attracted by the person we have become. So here's the great challenge of life. You can have more than you've got because you can become more than you are. That is the great focus of attention for life change. Now, on the other side of the coin, it reads, unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you've got. I've discovered that income does not usually exceed personal development. Sometimes income takes a lucky jump, but unless you keep growing out where it is, it will usually come back where you are. Life has strange ways. A very rich man once said, if you took all the money in the world and divided it equally among everybody, it would soon all be back in the same pockets. I guess it is hard to keep what you haven't attracted by your own personal development. It's not what we can do that's in question. What we can do is fantastic. What we can do is unbelievable. What we can do, it's what we settle for that's disappointing. What we become is what leads to all the good things. And the habits we form, habits of mind, attitude, and behavior, are a dominant part of what we are becoming. Now, I understand as well as anyone that forming new habits doesn't come easy. But new habits will come when we change, but rather by changing small pieces and parts at a time. I think that's how most of us change. We just keep nudging ourselves in the right direction, forming one or two new habits at a time, little by little, until finally we've made the turn. And this is where the good life comes from, those personal changes. There's nothing you can do with the seasons, but there's everything you can do with yourself. Wish for your own attitudes, strength, and capabilities to change in order to handle the winters. Time, we will probably use them all, unless somebody finally comes along and blows all those excuses apart to make us come face to face with the real reasons for our current dilemma. Until that time, we will probably use another million excuses to prevent ourselves from having $1 million. Here's one of the major questions I'll pose to you during this program. What are you going to do starting today that will make a difference in how your life works out? See, if you don't do something starting today that will make a difference, guess what? It's going to be the same. And you can guess what the next 5 years are going to be like. Just look at the last 5. Now here's another key question. What can you do starting today that will make a difference? That's a good question. What can you do? What can you do with economic chaos? What can you do with massive disappointment when it's all gone wrong? What can you do when it won't work, when you've run out of money, when you don't feel well, and it's all gone sour? What can you do? Well, let me give you the broad answer first. Here's what you can do. You can do the most remarkable things, no matter what happens. Hey, people can do incredible things, unbelievable things. A man can do the most amazing things with the most impossible circumstances. A woman can do the most remarkable things with the most disastrous circumstances. Hey, I found out kids can do remarkable things. That is, if they have remarkable things to do. I also found out if they don't have remarkable things to do, there's no telling what they'll do. For things to change for you, you've got to change, no matter what successes you've already achieved. Otherwise, it isn't going to change for you. I sure hope things will change. That seemed to be my only hope. If it wasn't going to change, I was in serious trouble. Then I found out it wasn't going to change, and I was in serious trouble. Hey, remember, it isn't going to change. Not long ago, I did a seminar for a group of oil company executives during their convention in Honolulu. Sitting around this conference table, one of them asked, "Mr. Rohn, you know some important people around the world. What do you think the next 10 years are going to be like?" I said, "Gentlemen, I do know the right people. I can tell you." So they all listened very carefully. I said, "Gentlemen, based on the people I know and from the best of my own experience, I've concluded that in the coming 10 years, it's going to be about like it's always been."
Need a little pick-me-up today? Welcome to the new Fresh Motivation app, where you'll find daily motivation, daily quotes. Listen to your favorite speeches in the background or with a black screen, so nothing interrupts your motivational moment, where you can create your personal profile, create playlists of your favorite speeches and quotes, add personal notes, and start setting goals. Fresh Motivation, the home of motivation. Get it now for free on Google Play.
You speak your future into the world. You speak your future. Whatever you say, whatever falls off your tongue, when you say I am, right? The unconscious mind says, and you are so. Whatever comes on the other side of that. And so you ask me a hard question, which one is most important? It starts with the thought. I think the thought is that's where everything originates. And then you add a whole lot of turbo boost to it with your tongue.
Most people are not living their dreams because of fear, ladies and gentlemen. I was in Columbus, Ohio yesterday speaking for a particular Ohio department. Young lady named Karen who greeted me, who organized the event. Very talented, very skillful. And she was talking about she wanted to become involved in the consulting business. I said, "Why aren't you doing it?" I said, "You have the abilities." I said, "You're not here because they like you. You're here because you're doing the job. You're making things happen." And she came up with all kind of ideas, but finally she said, "I guess I can't see myself doing it. I guess I'm afraid." Fear, limited vision, and lack of self-esteem is what keep most people doing things they don't want to do. I flew from Columbus, Ohio to Denver, Colorado to a major communications company. And the person that picked me up at the airport told me about the fact that the company was planning on having a major downsizing. And they offered some of the employees there an early retirement, and some of them will earn as much as $300,000. And they said, "This is the last time that you can take this offer. If you don't do it, when we have the downsizing, you might be among those who will lose their jobs, and all you will get is your severance pay." And only 50% of the people who were eligible to take the $300,000 took it. The others were afraid to take a chance on themselves. The others couldn't see themselves beyond that company. They couldn't see life after that company. The same reason that people stay in relationships where they're abused or they're unhappy or it's unfulfilling. They can't see themselves beyond that relationship. They can't see themselves enjoying life without that person. They think that this is all that they can do. The same reason that people get stuck at a certain level in life. They can't see things being better for them. And they think that this is it and this is all they deserve. This is all they've ever seen. It's been passed on to them. and they think that this is it for them. Oh no.
Everybody experiences extreme stress at some point in their life. I don't care who we are. Something happens outside our control and it hits our life and it knocks us on our tail. It might be a health stress. It could be something with your family. It could be economic, career. It could be something emotional that happened, biochemical. There's so many things. It could be an environmental situation that had nothing to do with you. Every one of us in our lifetime are experiencing extreme stress. And these days, because of the economy and the way we respond to it, the majority of people are experiencing some form of extreme stress, at least according to polls. Stress doesn't come from the facts. Stress comes from the meaning that we give to things. Yes, those things have happened. But the real question is, if we fight what's happened, we've got a problem. We've got to decide, what are we going to do with what's happened in our life? How are we going to take this? How are we going to mold this? How are we going to turn our life around? Because when you come up with a new meaning, you get a new life. And we're going to take a look at something from a different perspective. We're going to ask you this question. What is the single force that controls the quality of your life? If there was one gift our Creator has given us, or the universe, whatever you believe, what is it? What is the one power that you have right now in this moment that can change everything? You have it, I have it, we all have it. This one singular individual power that can change anything in our life, regardless of what's happened to us. And I know you know the answer. The answer is the power of choice. The one thing we have in this world is we can't control the events, but we can choose what to focus on, we can choose what things mean, and we can choose what to do. Those three choices, those three decisions really control our life. It's not so much the conditions of our life that control our destiny as much as the decisions of our life. Try for a second to think about something. Think about your life. And just think about, are there a few decisions? If I were to ask you 2 decisions you made in your life, you know, that if you would have made a different decision, you would have a totally different life. I mean, it may be a life may have been better, it may have been worse, I don't know, but you would have a different life. I'm not asking you to buy into the fact that you should have known the answers. I just want you to see the power of a decision.
Do you want to go to college? I say, yes, ma'am, I'm going to college. She said, Inky, the chances of that happening, slim to none. Like, I'm not trying to crush your dreams, but I can't play with your future. It just doesn't happen. I said, just give me a shot. The first day I get to the school, I see why everybody said what they said. There was a cop at every single door and metal detectors. And I'm still hyped. My man starts searching me. His exact words were, what's your plan, little man? I said, oh man, I'm going D1, I'm going to college. He says to me, you'll probably go to cell block D1. He said, you had 2 uncles coming to the same place, great little ball players. He said, aren't they serving 13 and 40 years at the federal penitentiary, not even 10 minutes away from these front doors? I said, yep. He said, exactly. Apple don't fall far from the tree. When I got my scholarship from Tennessee and got back to Crim High School, the first person I went to see was that cop in the lunchroom. He said, how did you do it? He said, the reason I said it to you, he said, don't get it twisted. You thought I was trying to break you. I wasn't. He said, I've seen so many kids step up to me and say the same thing. And they end up dropping out their freshman year. And so I wanted to challenge you to see, would you retreat or would you step up to me and fight for the thing that you said you wanted? I'm intrigued in life how when a person say they want something and the only thing it takes is for the circumstance to change. I'm intrigued by that, right? How a circumstance can take that away. In life, people don't burn out because of what they do. People burn out because life makes them forget why they do it. When it's about something greater than themselves, the opposition, the adversity, and the challenges are part of the journey. That's why it's so easy to spot people that's just out for their personal gain, because all it takes is for something not to go the way that they thought it was going to go, and now they no longer want it. And so when I got to Tennessee, it was Mayberry for me. And I come into my junior year, and I'm about to get exactly what I want. I'm about to get this thing called NFL. This thing that I've been working for. Like, everything revolved around this game, and I finally get in a position in my life to where now I'm 10 games away from it. NFL on top of the paper. Inky Johnson projected top 30, automatic multi-millionaire. Just play the next 10 football games, Ink. You made it. And I go out in a silly game against Air Force, and I go to make a tackle, and when I hit him, every breath in my body left. I fall to the ground, I blacked out. When my eyes open, guys run over, Ink, let's rock, man, let's go, let's finish him off. And I'm like, I can't. They said, what do you mean you can't? I said, I can't move. I said, I can't feel anything. Doctor says to me as he's walking beside me, I don't know how you're still alive, son, you don't have any pulse. I'm sitting there and people coming into my room like, Inky, man, I'm sorry about what happened to you. Like, man, that's really the only thing you wanted, huh? Like, the only thing you really wanted was the NFL, that's it. I'm like, man, you limited God to that? Like, life holds no substance, no value? And now the thing I placed my identity in, now it's gone. That's why I laugh at people when they say, man, if I could just get this, I'll be. Man, if I could just get this amount of money, I'll be. I'm like, ooh. What happens when God says yes and no? Like, do you have the ability to accept what you don't understand? Can you handle when things get off course? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, like, man, I'm 8 games away. Like, let me get the contract, then redirect me so I can help my family. And God's like, no, son, I need you to really go that way. And I'm like, you sure? Like, I need to go this way. He's like, no, I need you to go this way. I got something greater for you. Now, it might take a little longer to manifest, but I got something even sweeter. I got something, son, that's going to carry you for the rest of your life. And I thought it was over after football got redirected. My life got redirected 2, 3 more times before I even fell into my purpose and my mission. I'm thinking I'm going to be a coach. God's like, no, you ain't. I'm like, well, maybe I'm supposed to go back to Atlanta and work in my neighborhood at the rec center. I get to Atlanta, I call the guy, he don't answer the phone. The only thing I had at that moment was a prayer and a book. And the prayer that I prayed was, Lord, I don't know what you want me to do. But people keep coming to me, telling me, speak. Inky, you need to speak. And I'm like, I'm not speaking. People coming, Inky, you need to speak. I'm like, no, man. And God brought me to the point where I had nothing. And I was on my knees. I said, Lord, listen, I don't know if this is what you want me to do, but I submit and let's rock. And the next morning I woke up, I had my book I had written. And I got up and I looked at my wife. I said, I'm going to take this book to Oprah. Do you know Oprah? I'm like, nope. You know anybody at Harpo Studio? I'm like, nope. She said, go for it. And so I got my book, I got my suit, it's hot. Every door that opened, I ran in it. I'm, hey man, Inky Johnson, drove from Atlanta. They're like, get out of here. So after getting kicked out like 4 doors, I go to the back of the building. I sit down, I put my back on the building, look up to the sky, and I'm like, God, thought it was you. And I get up and I walk around the side of the building. I look down the sidewalk, and at this moment, there was nobody but Oprah and the security guard. She said, hey, that's a nice suit. I said, thank you. I said, I drove from Atlanta. I wanted to get you my book. So would you mind taking a picture? We take a picture, and I'm going to walk off, and her security says to me, hey, young man, come here. He said, what just happened never happens. So I leave. I start to put the picture on social media, send it to my friends, everybody's reaction. You going to be on a book club? You going to be on a show? I'm like, what just happened? Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I'm like, God, are we moving like that? Don't know nobody on Oprah's staff and look at my wife and say, I'm going to meet Oprah. And God puts me face to face with Oprah and puts the book in her hand. I said, God, let's go. I live my life a certain type of way according to the power that I know the Lord possesses. I live my life a certain type. Like when I go to the Lord in prayer, I go bold. Like, and I know the initial reaction when we go through things is to say, man, why did this have to happen to me? And it's an honest reaction. And some of the things we go through, I'm gonna just be real, it's not a scripture for it. But this is what I've understood. In life, some people don't need you to preach a sermon, they need you to live one.
Listen to me. I don't care how dark it looks for you. I don't care what they just said to you. I don't care what the verdict is. I don't care what the haters say. Prayer changed things. I'm talking to a girl that I grew up on a block, man, that it didn't breed success. A lot of people on our block ain't here no more, man. I grew up in a place, man, that was you had to be something else, you come up out of there. Prayer changes things. I was told I would never be nothing. Prayer changes things. I flunked out of school. Prayer changes things. I'm on my 3rd marriage, lost everything I've owned twice. I've been homeless and lived in a car for 3 years. Prayer changes things. Prayer. The cool thing about prayer is the one thing that's available to everybody at any given time. Do you know that God ain't ever too busy for you? Do you know that God actually knows who you are? Do you know that God actually created you to converse with him? Do you know that God would actually love to hear from you? Do you know that I like talking to him even when I don't really need nothing? So when I do need something, I don't want to have to introduce myself to him. Listen to me, man. Quit playing with this here. You're not going to make it without God. If you've tried it so far, tell me how that's working out for you. It sucked, don't it? You need God. Don't you think I got here without him. I've needed him every step of the way. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't even be standing here today. I'm telling you right now, you need God. You need to tell him that you need him. Quit being ashamed about it and worrying about who looking. Go somewhere by yourself today and tell God you need some help. Tell him that you're just tired of trying to figure it out for yourself. You already know you got problems. See, God saved anybody. God saved me. Now listen to me. You ain't got to like the way I'm saying.
The right people, divine connections are going to find you. Greater is coming. The enemy thought he was pulling you back to keep you there. He didn't realize, like a bow and arrow, the more he pulls you back, the further God is going to shoot you. He thought he was hindering you. The truth is, he was helping you. The suffering was a setup. God allowed it so he can launch you to a new level of your destiny. Now, don't be discouraged by what you're going through. You couldn't become who you were created to be without the struggle, without the disappointment, without the bad break. I know it's uncomfortable. I know you don't like it, but keep reminding yourself, greater is coming. 1 Samuel chapter 30, David and his 600 men had been out protecting the borders of Israel. When they were returning home 3 days later, they noticed smoke billowing in the sky. It looked like it was coming from their city. I can imagine they started walking faster, wondering what was going on. When they arrived home, their worst fears came to pass. The Amalekites had come in and raided their city. They burned down all the homes, kidnapped all their wives and children, and took all of their possessions. Here David was out doing the right thing, and the wrong thing happened. Didn't seem fair. But just because you have trouble doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes when you're doing right, you will face difficulties. There are forces trying to keep you from your destiny. But when you understand this principle, that every setback is a setup for God to take you further, that the suffering is putting you in position for greater honor, then you won't fall apart when you have a bad break. You won't live bitter because you had an unexpected challenge. You'll stay in faith, knowing that the enemy wouldn't be trying to stop you if he didn't know something amazing was in your future. David and his men were very discouraged. They wept until they could not weep anymore. If that wasn't bad enough, David's men were so distraught about losing their wives and children, they talked about stoning David. David could have sat around in self-pity, depressed. Instead, the scripture says David began to encourage himself in the Lord his God. Maybe that's where he wrote, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will continually be in my mouth. Maybe sitting in those ashes, he wrote, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. Instead of complaining, he was thanking God that he was still on the throne. And sometimes you won't be able to find anyone else to encourage you. Your friends are busy, your pastor's on vacation, your church is closed because of the virus. You can't find me on television. That's God letting you know you have to encourage yourself. You have to dig down deep and say, I am not going to let this bad break, this disappointment, this injustice steal my joy and sour my life. God, I thank you that you are bigger than this sickness, greater than this depression, more powerful than this opposition. I know you being for me is more than the world being against me. You have to stir up your praise, stir up your faith, start speaking victory over your life. Start thanking God that He's fighting your battles, that this too shall pass, that greater is coming. David prayed and asked if he should go after the enemy. God said in verse 8, yes, go after them. You will surely recover everything that was taken from you. You may be in a difficult time. You've lost some things, lost your health, lost your joy, lost your dreams. God is saying, if you'll get your fire back and start moving forward, you will surely recover everything that you've lost. The enemy may be laughing now, but you're going to have the last laugh. God has the final say. He saw the injustice. He saw who did you wrong, what you didn't get, what was taken from you. He's saying, get ready. Everything is coming back. Your health, your children, your finances, your joy, your dreams. Not maybe, not there's a good chance. Surely you will recover everything. Surely means without a doubt. You can count on it. God used the word surely not for him, but for us. He's saying, be confident it's all coming back. David and his men left the camp and headed out. They didn't really know where to go. When it just so happened, they came across a servant of one of the Amalekites. This young man had been sick and not able to travel, so they left him behind. David gave him food and water. He promised that if he would lead them to the Amalekites, he would spare his life. This young man took them right to the enemy's camp. When you get your passion back and go after what belongs to you, God will have the right people in your path to help you. He'll have divine connections, people that will use their experience, their expertise to take you where you couldn't go on your own. Right now, God is arranging things in your favor. He is lining up the breaks you need. He is pushing back forces of darkness. Things are happening that you cannot see. If you will keep moving forward in faith, you are going to come in to unusual favor. Breakthroughs, healing, victories, things that you couldn't make happen on your own. David and his men went in and attacked the Amalekites. They wiped them all out. Nobody was left in the camp. Verse 18 says, David got everything back that the Amalekites had taken. They rescued their wives and children. Nothing was missing, small or great, son or daughter. David brought everything back. You may feel like you've lost some things. That loved one that didn't make it. Seems like they took a part of you with them. You don't have the joy you used to have. Or you've struggled with that addiction so long, you've lost the desire to fight. But God is going to do for you what He did for David. One day you're going to say, nothing is missing. I got my dreams back. I got my health back. I got my children back. I got my joy back. God is not going to bring you out partially, where you get most of what you lost. God doesn't do things halfway. Nothing is going to be missing. It was a great victory that David got everything back. But God doesn't bring you out the same. When you go through suffering, greater is coming. Verse 20 says, David's men rounded up all the Amalekites' flocks and herds, all their possessions. These belonged to them as their reward. There is a reward for going through difficulties with a good attitude. We would be grateful if God just brought us back to where we were. But when you go through challenges in an attitude of faith, with your head held high, knowing that God is fighting your battles, then a reward is coming. You're not going to just come out, you're going to come out better than you were before.